All right, so I I, I know we both know people who are victims and survivors of sexual assaults and sexual crimes, right? I do have this one friend, and I hope she doesn't mind me sharing her story. She was living with her mother, a single parent. Her uncle was molesting her at the time from the ages of like 9 to 12, straight up molesting. And she goes to tell her mother, hey, Uncle so and so has been molesting me, touching me inappropriately. So mother wasn't listening, swept it under the rug, as P said, we tend to do in our communities, right? So this molestation went on, it went on, and it went on for it was 3 years. And it got to the point where she's like, my mom's not believing me. What do I do now? I don't really have any other family. It's just me and my mother. So she tells the school, she goes to the school, she tells the school is either the principal or a counselor or something at the school that my uncle's been molesting me for years. School does what they do. They call the police. There's an investigation. The mother denies that this ever happened. The uncle, of course, denies that this ever happened. And her mother gets her request that she's removed from her home, basically. Like, my daughter's running around making up all these crazy stories about my brother. I don't want her living here. So she got placed into foster care. And as we said at the top of the show and in a previous show, when we were talking about CPS on Black Law, that's not really a good place for people who are sexually abused, or any type of abuse. So she's bounced around in the foster care system, from foster home to foster home. The abuse continued with these foster parents. So she ran away. She ran away and ended up staying with who she thought was a family friend in the projects. And this guy was, for all intents and purposes, he was a pimp. So what he would do was he would drug her with cocaine, with crack. Now we're talking at this time, I think she's maybe 15 years old. He would drug her with cocaine and crack. She actually became addicted to crack, alcohol, and all types of drugs. So in doing this, with her being high, he would sell her multiple times. And this went on for quite some time. And she was so strung out as a teenager that she couldn't leave. And it wasn't even a matter of, this dude physically preventing her from leaving. No, he got her strung out. So she was being basically raped by multiple people a day. And this happened for quite some time too, until the dude ended up, I think he got arrested, and she ended up back in the foster care system. Now, at this point, she was 17. A 17-year-old that's been through molestation by a family member, been through abuse by foster care, been prostituted at the age of like 14, 15, strung out on crack cocaine. That's not a good fit for any household or any foster parent. Luckily, she did get placed with who was a decent foster parent, but at this time she was like fucked up, like mentally, yo. She was rebellious, like she was angry at the world, and she had every right to be. She was suicidal, she was depressed, every right to be all of those things. But yeah, man, she attempted suicide multiple times, and right now she's in her 30s, and she's still, from time to time, like, I mean, I hate to say it, she still makes attempts to kill herself. And like, that's just so much trauma, and that's not her only trauma. That's just like a little slice of the cake, man. Do you know anybody personally who's experienced sexual crime, sexual abuse?
Well, I don't know anyone to that extent that had it that severe, but I stated earlier about some of the instances of people I know close to me, and how when they stepped forward, spoke up, it was immediately rejected and slapped back down. And that's why people don't step up and don't seek help. And it's even worse when you're married, because in domestic violence situations, a lot of women who are victims of domestic violence, when they try to leave, they get assaulted, they get killed.
Yeah.
So it's just a bad situation to be in, and you tend to be alone. And the sad thing about the law is, if they don't have evidence, they can't do anything. And you can call the cops all you want and say someone is a danger to you. Typically, the cops can't do anything until that person harms you, and a lot of the time that results in them killing you, or you just end up killing yourself or killing that person, such as the girl recently who had finally got a pardon after murdering her pimp that was pimping her out as a child almost her entire life. She murdered him. Everybody's probably heard about this case recently. Murdered him, got sentenced to life in prison, got it upheld, and now finally got a pardon from the governor, and will be released later this year. But that's just a bad situation all around. And, that's a terrible story. But sadly, it is a lot more stories like that we don't know about, that we may never know about, of people going through this stuff right now.
Yeah, man. I guess that about wraps it up here. What we'll do is, in the show notes, we'll post a couple of websites, a couple of phone numbers where you can report sexual crimes, or basically resources if you need help, if you've been a victim of sexual crime.